I decided it was the George Seifert. So I lose Bill, but it's the first George Seifert year where the Niners boat race the Broncos 55-10. I can pick Montana or I can pick Rice. I'm picking Joe, even though Jerry is my favorite player, because in my mind, that season was about redemption and kind of closing the door a little bit on Joe Montana as a 49er. He doesn't play very much in 91, and he's gone in 92. So yeah, it's a nice little bookend to close the door on Joe. So you get to see Joe have a great season. It's Jerry. Roger is still playing, Ronnie Lott, Chet Brooks. So you get to relive that season. They go 14-2. Joe's the MVP. Jerry is the MVP of the Super Bowl, and you are good to go. So that is the season that I choose to relive. If I was to be able to relive that whole season of games, that is the one that I want for the 49ers.
I would go with 89. We talk about how, that's so I guess the 88 season, not,
little bit of a struggle midway through that season too.
And it's 6. I mean, it really was a struggle. That I just, that Super Bowl is just iconic to me.
You get that game, which was at that point probably, even though the game 3/4 of that game was kind of boring, but the best Super Bowl up to that point.
Joe Montana at the peak of his powers, like you say, it wasn't like a necessarily great game, but just the drive is where it's at. And it's a quirky game because Joe does what he does, but then John Taylor makes the big catch, but Jerry is the MVP. It was just like a super weird game. And then what I always remember randomly is the riots afterwards in Miami. It was just such a bizarre time, and it was like the end of Ronnie, and that was his like kind of swan song, and then it got really weird for me as a fan, when we treat what I felt, and now that with player empowerment and everything, I felt even at the time that we treated Ronnie Lott very, very disrespectfully.
The
And
49ers, I think it was after that Super Bowl season the following year, they put Ronnie and Roger Craig on what was called Plan B free agency.
Yep.
I don't exactly remember the particulars of Plan B, but what I remember is like you could expose them and then another team could sign them because they both went to the Raiders.
Yep. And that was the thing, because famously in his books and in all the, reporting it was Bill Walsh's famous words that, he'd rather lose a player a year too early than a year too late. And then subsequently, that was what the case was. Ronnie Lott went to the Raiders and was an All-Pro. It was an All-Pro still. And I just, even then, I felt that you pay those dudes. He had done right up there with Joe and Jerry. Ronnie on the defensive line, he was the guy that set the tone for those dynasties, and for the thought of him being anywhere else was ridiculous, and then for it to be the Raiders was like insult to injury for young Rod. But that would be the team, because again, it's
would you relive that season through Ronnie? Is that the guy you're focusing on? Is it Joe? Is it Jerry?
Yeah, it's probably, for me, it would probably be through the eyes of Jerry, because I feel like that was like Jerry in like at the peak of his powers. I mean, he was just he is for me the greatest football player to ever put on
Yeah,
cleats.
me too.
And that, when I think of Jerry Rice, it's the plays that he made in that season, like the minor miracle and with the Giants.
Yeah.
That was one that means so much to me because I was thinking about this week is like I was talking to somebody about, and I didn't miss any. I watched all of Alex Smith's games as a Niner because by that point I was grown, but I missed so many games because my mom would make me go to church, and
Yeah.
I couldn't. And I remember listening to that game in the car at a Denny's after church. I asked to be excused so I could go out and watch. And my mother, I remember her saying as I left the table, they're gonna lose anyway. I don't know why you tripping. And I was like, see, it's kind of fucking fan you are, lady. And he makes that play, and then so my first memories of that play were the two dudes. If you guys don't know, he like runs a play, and the two Giants wide defensive backs like rub each other
Yeah.
off, and Jerry scores. So I first heard that play before I actually saw the play,
Yeah.
and I went fucking crazy in the car. We won this game. So Jerry has always been my guy, but that season was like really special to me. So yeah, I'd want to relive it through Jerry's eyes. Like you say, it wasn't all pretty.
There's some tough ones.
It wasn't like a 14-2 season.
Yeah.
It was, we took some tough losses, but that it's kind of, those are like the good ones, kind of like what the if we end up going and we're fortunate enough to win this championship, it hasn't been all peaches and creams. And I think that will make it that much sweeter if we're able to pull it off.